We finally know where Paulo Costa and Khamzat Chimaev fit into the UFC at the moment because Dana White just announced that these two will be fighting each other at UFC 294, and Paulo Costa has said that he did sign a bout agreement. He did actually publicly say when the Robert Whittaker fight was announced, he publicly said he never accepted the fight. He literally said that. So when that fight was cancelled, I mean, it literally wasn't really Paulo Costa's fault. He said he never even agreed to it in the first place. And the same thing happened with the Ikram Velasquez fight. They announced Paulo Costa versus Ikram Velasquez. Paulo Costa went to Twitter again, said he never signed the bout agreement. He never signed to fight Ikram Velasquez, which makes things awkward and interesting for various reasons. I will get into that in the end of the video, or later on in the video, really. But Paulo Costa has said that he signed the bout agreement for this fight, so we know it's going to be happening. But man, one thing I noticed, Khamzat Chimaev's getting old, isn't he? You know, because the thing about Khamzat Chimaev that everybody's been talking about for a very long time is Khamzat Chimaev. He's got so long to become a champion and have multiple defenses and have a great career and all this and that. And now all of a sudden he's 29 years old. He's almost 30. And Khamzat Chimaev, when he first came into the UFC and he was dominating everybody, he was only 26 years old. And we're like, man, youth is on this guy's side. And yes, he's been active. He's been a very, very active fighter. But the thing with Khamzat Chimaev is he's so good. It is a little bit disappointing to see him sit out for so long like he did. He sat out for 10 months. Who knows what really went on? And Paulo Costa as well, a similar situation. You know, he lost to Israel Adesanya, took about a year off, lost to Marvin Vettori, took about 10 months off, and then beat Luke Rockhold and hasn't fought since again. You know, Paulo Costa really living his best life on Twitter. But the reason why this fight is awkward and the press conference is going to be awkward is for various reasons. And I think the main reason is Khamzat Chimaev has actually already beaten Ikram Velasquez, who's going to be on this card and probably on the press conference. And Ikram Velasquez was meant to fight Paulo Costa. This press conference, I'm telling you guys, could be underrated. It could be awkward because you've got Ikram Velasquez, who was meant to fight Paulo Costa, and he's also lost to Khamzat Chimaev in the past. So that's a very interesting thing that I don't see many other people probably planning on bringing up. It's something I noticed. It's going to be an odd press conference. It's going to be interesting. But this matchup is fun. I am going to pick Khamzat Chimaev to win it, though. I am. I know Paulo Costa's got great takedown defense. I know Paulo Costa's a great striker, but once again, man, like who is Paulo Costa beating these days, you know? Because he does have that crazy stat that every single win on his record in the UFC is against fighters that aren't in the UFC anymore. It actually is a crazy stat to have as a highly ranked contender. Now, to be fair, Uriah Hall got released. I think he actually might have retired from MMA, but I think he was released. Yoel Romero went to Bellator. He's still fighting. Luke Rockhold retired, but he's saying he's going to come back. Who really knows what's up with him? But it's crazy to think, though. It's actually insane to think. And man, with Paulo Costa as well, I do bring it up every now and then. When I was first getting into MMA, I was getting into MMA the end of 2015. I believe it was early 2016. When he made his debut against Gareth McClellan in 2017, man, me and my dad were watching this card in the lounge, and we're like, this guy's going to be a future champion. Like, we could not believe how good he looked, and it was a crazy debut. And then he went on to have a good career, knocking everybody out. And once again, those same conversations were coming up. And then, you know, when he fought Israel Adesanya, I was like, oh yeah, you know, like maybe he could rush in and beat Israel Adesanya. But Adesanya just dominated him, you know. Israel Adesanya, he did grow a boob. I'm from New Zealand. It is true. New Zealand is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It's an island in the middle of nowhere. We're pretty close to Australia, but even then, Australia is an island pretty far away from other countries as well. So yeah. Anyway, Paulo Costa versus Khamzat Chimaev is a fun fight. I'm looking forward to it. I think Khamzat Chimaev wins, though. I really do. However, it's gonna be interesting because what if Khamzat Chimaev goes out there and blows his load in the first round and doesn't finish Paulo Costa in the first round? Could we see Paulo Costa march a comeback in the second and the third rounds? It's just one of those fights, man. I know Paulo Costa apparently has a black belt in BJJ. I believe it's under like his manager, but anyway, Paulo Costa, he's got a black belt in BJJ. We don't see it all that much. Khamzat Chimaev is a fantastic wrestler and grappler. I do believe he can go out there and out-wrestle Paulo Costa. I don't think it's going to be as easy as maybe most people think it's going to be. But I do believe that Khamzat Chimaev can go out there, just take down Paulo Costa, dominate him on the ground. And we know what happens when Khamzat Chimaev gets people down to the ground. nasty things happen. He beats people up, you know, against Kevin Holland. He did a bit of a dirty tactic, but he got Kevin Holland down to the ground. Insane scrambles from both guys on the ground in that matchup. He ended up getting the win. He took on Gilbert Burns. Absolute scrap, absolute war. I am on the side of the fence that does believe Khamzat Chimaev won that fight. He just did the more damage. I believe it was the third round that really stole it for him. And then against Li Jingliang, he dominated Li Jingliang, took him down, took him over to Dana White and dominated him. It was insane, dude. Like, that was his big step up in competition as well. When he fought from GM3 to Li Jingliang, that's what we were saying. We were saying that this is his big step up in competition. This is a big test. And now he's getting up to 185 pounds. I like Chimaev at 185. I don't know if he intentionally missed weight at 170 or not, but he missed weight by a lot. Like, a lot. And now he's at 185. I want to see Chimaev beat Paulo Costa and then fight for the title. I want to see Chimaev versus Israel Adesanya, because I think that would be a real legacy-defining fight for Israel Adesanya. But it seems like Israel Adesanya has people to go through. It seems like he's going to be fighting Sean Strickland, and then it seems like he's going to fight Dricus du Plessis, and then maybe Khamzat Chimaev is going to be next up. So maybe if he beats Paulo Costa, he'll have to fight somebody else. Maybe he beats Paulo Costa and then fights maybe Robert Whittaker. I think that would make sense. I think if Paulo Costa loses this fight, maybe you could just rebook him with Ikram Aliskerov. I mean, pretty similar stylistic matchup. Maybe he won't want to do it, but as I said, awkward fight. Awkward press conference coming up because Ikram Aliskerov, he's lost to Khamzat Chimaev and he was meant to fight Paulo Costa, so he's going to have bad blood with Paulo Costa. And maybe Aliskerov and Chimaev have bad blood with each other. I don't know. Maybe Chimaev's really respectful of Aliskerov and says that he's like a really good fighter and all this and that. But it's just interesting to see, right? I mean, it's going to be an interesting build-up. It's going to be an interesting fight. Let me know who you think is going to win in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.